Well, I am here seated with a very heavy heart because of the untimely death of a great general of India, General Bipin Rawat. The death occurred because of the crash of the helicopter that had been used by General Bipin Rawat, his wife, and his associates. The news came to us in the midday, and since then, I have had stories about how the accident took place, what happened after that, and what people were talking about the possibilities of any survivors of the accident. But ultimately, the news confirmed the deaths of 13 people, including General Bipin Rawat, except for one who is getting treatment in a hospital. In fact, anyone's death causes grief in the heart. I remembered whenever I had classes to do, and the theme of the lecture to be delivered, death and life, I would often ask the participants in the class what was the experience of each one of them of death, particularly in reference to the first time realization that some death has occurred in the family, in the neighborhood, or anywhere. When you go out of your home for your duty in a factory or in an office or in an institution, or you just go out for a walk or for for the exercises, sometimes you see that a carriage, a cottage having the dead body of someone and people following that cottage, that carriage, and all crestfallen, some of them weeping, sobbing, some of them just controlling themselves. And when you see such a sight, then you also get touched. You also get grieved and start thinking about life, how brittle human life is, how uncertain human life is, how short it is. Even in this short life, you never know when death will catch up with you. Uh, Death knows no calendar, and this is proved by the fact that if it is a red letter day, it's a festival day, it's a Christmas day, it's an Easter day, it's a day of Deepavali. It doesn't matter to the agents of death or the angel of death or the hands of death. It doesn't matter. Somebody gets out in a car to bring the bride or the bridegroom, and on the way to the place of the bride or the bridegroom, somewhere your car comes into an accident and you lose your life. You never realize your goal. This is the uncertainty. So, the first reflection that can be expressed on life and death is this, that life is always under threat of death. Life begins and the threat of death also begins. Life happens and death starts happening uh, in the mind or in the heart or in the consciousness of the one who is to die just after birth, or in the consciousness of the parents, the family members, the friends, because these people have the experience of an infant giving a cry after their birth, and a few minutes later, death occurs. An infant, without having a glimpse of the earth where he is born or she is born, the body is left behind for disposal, and the soul flies out of the body. Life, therefore, should be taken as what? Should it be taken as a blessing, as a blissful journey across this earth or on this earth or in one or the other part of the earth, or it should be taken as a punishment, as the beginning of a series of punishments, as the beginning of an infinite number of accidents and challenges and situations which are gloomy, heartbreaking, and rest snatching. Life is like a bubble, they say. The bubble gets born, the bubble comes into existence, and a few seconds later, or a second later, the bubble bursts into nothingness. As Shakespeare somewhere said, that life is like a bubble. You never know when it is to burst. And people who in their life seek for fame, go for fame, they earn fame and name. Even that is not long to stay on, long to exist. Even fame and name of the people getting earned through lots of rigorous exercises, lots of pain, lots of sacrifices. Even that fame, even that, you can say, the precious thing that you always want to have gets into nothingness. And Shakespeare compares this with the circle of a wave that gets created in the water body because of the throwing of a piece of a stone, or because of the winds, very strong winds blowing over the surface of the water. So you have the circle. The circle goes on getting widened and widened. And the time comes when that circle disappears. It mingles into the depth of the water, or into the system of the water. It is not seen. It's very difficult to live life because deaths are everywhere. Deaths are in all societies. Deaths are in all nooks and corners. And almost every day, if millions of people get born, half that number people die. When birth takes place, you have some sort of celebration. People in the family, people in the neighborhood, friendly to the family where birth has taken place, all people enjoy. They have smiles on their faces, they have light on their faces, and they exchange greetings, they distribute, they distribute sweets and other edible items of everybody's choice, and you celebrate both. But right from that time, people have the fear that some unknown disease or some unknown attacks to the body you don't have any control over might snatch away your life. It is therefore very difficult to believe in life. It is very difficult to rely on human life. You never know tomorrow will be yours or not. Tomorrow you will be enjoying your time as you have enjoyed today, even when you don't have any symptoms of any problem. You are all right. You are healthy. You are in the best of moods, but tomorrow something happens. An excuse gets created by the agent of death. If you don't have any bodily problem, and if the death so wishes, the death sends a snake, a poisonous snake. It bites you and you get gone. Or the agent of death gets you on a scooter, gets you in a car, and the same agent of time gets that scooter or your car into accident, terrible accident, head-on collision with another vehicle, and you lose your life. You are on the way to your examination hall, and you have the pressure of the examination. You feel much pressure because you are not prepared, or because you lose confidence. You are prepared, you have worked hard, but you lose confidence on the eve of the exam, and then there you have a heart attack. Things like that happen. So you have countless excuses for the agents of death to push people into the dark world without letting them realize sometime on this earth, without letting them do something on this earth that they want to do, without letting their ambitions, their passions to get fulfilled, to get rewarded. And this happens. Once I was at the Pasupati temple ghat, that is in Kathmandu, and I had just been to that area to see how the temple premises look. What is the standard of cleanliness? What sort of people visit that temple, which is the most, you can say, visited temple in Nepal, a neighboring country to India. And I saw within half an hour dead bodies getting brought to the banks of the Bagmati River. And I saw 5-year-old boy having black hair and very beautiful face, and wearing half pants and t-shirt, and no sign of any stillness in the body, as if the body is fresh, but there is no life. I also saw adults, 25 years, 30 years. I saw old people, and then I had this idea as to what sort of nature death has. If death is to be personified, what is the attitude of death towards life? Why is it so severe? Why is it so unfeeling? Why is it so cruel that a 5-year-old boy or girl or a 2-year-old, you can say infant, is smothered and put into the world of death? A 25-year-old student, a 45-year-old family man having small children, and they are snatched away from life. And then the survivors, the relatives and the friends, they are left in deep mourning, profound grief, immeasurable and indescribable sorrow. Why? 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 If people have to die, let them die at the age of 85, 90. Be a bit more generous. Let them die after they have lived 100 years. Or if you can't be that lenient, if you can't, I mean, you means death or death's agent. If they can't be lenient, if they can't be compassionate, let them die at the age of 70, because lifespan is increasing, and at the age of 70, people mostly in developed societies are fit and fine. They do everything on their own. Many of them start a career of a writer at the age of 70. We have examples. Many of the people prove to be, you can say, of great importance, great use to society after 70 only. So that is what a human being, an ordinary human being like me, uh, wishes that death should be lenient. If you get somebody born on this earth, if you send somebody on this earth to live, to work, to leave footprints of nobility, of greatness, of positivity, then give that human being some time. Don't make him go without having done, without having seen anything. So life is extremely unreliable. It doesn't have certainty. It can go off anytime. And death is everywhere. So a struggle between light and darkness. How long the light is to stay on, and when is darkness to pounce upon light and to take away everything that is shining, that is visible. John Donne, I remember, a metaphysical poet, in fact, the leader of the metaphysical school of poetry. And he wrote a poem challenging death. Death, don't be proud. Don't think that you can do whatever you like. Who bothers about you? If you have to come, come anytime. Come while I am busy writing. Come while I am in the pleasure of sleeping in my cozy bed. Or come when I am in the company of my beloved. Come anytime you like. Who bothers? I don't care you. You be afraid of me. That if you come, I may not obey you immediately. I may argue with you. I may put a few questions, embarrassing questions to you, Date. But then, as a human being, I feel that these are the things for consolation, to hide our helplessness. Who is afraid of death? If I say, okay, it is good to hear, it is good to speak, people might think of me as a brave person, but in reality, it is unbelievable because the more you have lived, the more you want to live. Nobody wants to get off the scene. Yes, of course, you have exceptions. If you are not healthy, if you are not living well, if you don't have aspirations, ambitions, passions, if you don't have your plans unfinished to finish, and your body is raked, your mind has become feeble, it has been feeble by time, and you are insensate, you are not conscious of anything around you, then you become a burden. And sometimes when the consciousness flashes on you, comes back to you, then you curse your life. What is the use of living this kind of life? And then you want to die. But people, on the other hand, who are in good health, who have ambitions, aspirations, passions, and positive passions, and even these people, they are cut short. Their ambitions, their passions are not given any credit, even when they are of the best type, best sort. So there's a saying, man proposes, God disposes, or man proposes to live, and death disposes that, you can say, proposal of man. Anytime it can happen. You go out to an air-conditioned market to buy something for your child, for your brother, for your sister, for your mother, and you never come back. And then one can realize, one can feel the pangs, the pain that goes through the minds and hearts of the survivors. Now, Shakespeare or Dr. Johnson or Dylan Thomas don't go gentle into that good night. And all these writers, sometimes they defy the dictates of death, and sometimes they express their boldness, their fearlessness. But the essence is this, that man tries to browbeat death, or man tries to belittle death. Man tries to show that he's capable of keeping death at bay or not getting frightened, but who is not afraid of death? Because death may not be that painful when it comes, may not inflict on you that much pain. It might take you in a, suppose, in a whiff, but then you have this desire to live, to do something. You have the passion to prove to the world that you are a manly man, you are a noble man, you are an angelic man, angelic person, and you only want to prove yourself. But before you are anywhere to prove what you wanted to prove about yourself, you are no more. It is therefore sometimes futile to think of life and death. Just live as long as you are allowed to live. Just enjoy your health as long as you are allowed to enjoy your health. Pains come, grief comes, challenges come, and you try your best. Your friends, relatives, all those who love you, all those who want you to continue in the life, they support you. But in spite of all the love, all the affection, of all the support, you are nowhere. Now I come to this great general, Bipin Rawat. As far as I know, he is from a state in India that is called Uttarakhand. Once upon a time, that was part of Uttar Pradesh. And in the Indian subcontinent, suppose in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Maldives, if you live in this part of the world, you know that conditions, social, economic, cultural, spiritual, religious, with some variations, more or less, the people living in the Indian subcontinent, they share so much. They have differences also. For example, you have certain religious, cultural differences, but because of the economic conditions being of the same level, almost the same level, people in this part of the world share more than they don't share. So Bipin Rawat, his father was also in the army, and I heard some people in the news bulletin talking about his father encouraging him when he was a child, an adolescent, to join army, to be an army officer. And when you have to live in this world, you have to prepare yourself for this job or that job, this function or that function. You want to be an army officer, others want to be doctors, engineers, politicians, carpenters. Because you don't want to be carpenter, you want to be a doctor, engineer, because highly paid jobs. You have so-called social prestige, although what is prestige? Like fame, it is nothing. It is momentary. It may be tarnished, it may be taken away because of some misaction. But whatever you happen to be, whatever function you continue doing as long as you live, you have a fascination for life, and then suddenly you have to leave. So those who die, okay, for them it is a kind of salvation. For them it's a kind of release, because the longer you live, the longer you have the pain in your life. Luckily, if you are, you can say, always healthy, always happy, always financially independent, then it's all right. Life is enjoyed. You go on in a very, you can say, comfortable way. But most of the people, the milling, millions, toiling, mailing, competing, rivaling, and every day is a battle. So there is a kind of death every day. You have to be paid the wages that you deserve to be paid, and the one for whom you worked as an individual or whatever, you don't get paid. And you have to bend down, you have to feel humiliated, you have to ask repeatedly to get paid. What is this life? Isn't it worse than death? Death occurs and everything. No, you don't have to get humiliations. You don't have to, you can say, cry before people. You don't have to rival with anybody. You don't have to compete because competitions are only for the sake of competitions. Competitions have turned into rivalry. So if that is the general state, general feature of human life, then what is the use of talking about death and all? But yes, some people, great people, Mahatma Gandhi died, and the whole world mourned, wept. Kennedy got assassinated. People, not only in the public life, even scientists, even singers. Michael Jackson was a pop singer, he died, and the whole world came to know about his death. And mourning was, you can say, done for so many days. So people who are in the public light, people who are, you can say, so-called celebrities, when they die, okay, death is almost the same because after death, what happens to a general, what happens to a friar, what happens to a beggar, it is for everybody to see. But then, memories wise, or what you call the kind of dignified farewell you are given. If you are the president, the prime minister, the great celebrity, then your dead body is covered with flowers. The cottage is nicely, you can say, decorated very tastefully, and the songs or the hymns of your, you can say, uh, choice are played on, and then people get to know somebody. An ordinary person dies like an ant. Nobody knows. A commoner dies. A few people, suppose, dispose the dead body, and that's all. After that thing, they come into laughter, they come into smile, they come into the mainstay of their lifestyle. So when people who are famous, celebrities, known, and they are talked about, as I am talking about General Bipin Rawat, I have never seen him. I have just heard of him. I have heard people talking about him from time to time. He was the first CDS uh, in the Indian, you can say, army setup. I read in the newspaper, I saw in the news. But I wanted to pay tributes to him because of his courageous life, because of his contribution to the services to his motherland as an army officer, because of his management, because of his expertise that he shared with other officers, and because also of his initiatives that he took in, uh, you can say, establishing peace or having friendly relations. As a general, you are always prepared to fight out your enemies, but a good general is the one who always wants that amity is created, friendship is promoted, relations between countries, because why to fight? Why to go to wars? Why to kill people? Killing people, this side or that side or every side, is killing. It is inhuman, not good. The good thing is that you have relations. Okay, you can't have relations with all the people of the world, but you can have relations with the people who are near you, who live in close vicinity. And it's good to follow the principle of live and let live. Everybody should live. Everybody should live natural life. Death comes, and death must come, and death is unavoidable. It is inevitable. But simply because you are in the army, you don't become everybody's enemy. You don't become bad. Great generals have been in our world and they have served humanity. They have tried to avoid wars. They have tried to, you can say, lessen the intensity of conflicts by their judicious strategy or judicious, you can say, management of things in the army. And General Bipin Rawat is described as a great general, and he always wanted peace to prevail for a longer period in South Asia, in Asia, everywhere. So I am much sad because of his untimely death. I think of the family members because death has occurred in everybody's family. Death will occur in everybody's family. It makes you feel very sad. You think about yourself. When is the turn for you to get out of this world? You become conscious of death. You lose your freedom of thinking. You lose your, you can say what you call that sort of mood in which you are free from all these ugly things. When you see somebody dying or somebody dead body being carried to a crematorium, you get into a very bad mood and shadows of sorrows of all types. They, you can say, they get all over you, all around you. I don't have to go into the merits and demerits of people like General Bipin Rawat, but what I have heard, what I have known about him, tells me that he should have gone out of the world in a different way, not in an accident like this. He should have been with his people, with his family members. He should have been slowly realizing that he was going to bid farewell to this world. And you talk to your family members. He should have talked to his family members. He should have told them what plans he had, what sort of life he wanted them to live, what sort of messages he might have with him in his mind to give to people. That way, orderly exit. But sudden exit is so painful. All the people, most of the people who might have come into his contact, into his association, I can understand their feelings. And they are certainly much hurt, much grieved, and not in a mood to have even dinner because you feel hungry, but when you go to eat, you think of the man who is gone, and he was an illustrious man, a man of action, a man of wisdom, a man of the tendency of having peace, although the job that he was in is always described as cruel job, the army job that you plan, you strategize, and you encourage your army men, your people, to be fierce in the war. And everybody does that. That is human problem, human irony, universal human irony. That we get educated, we become scientists, we become, suppose, engineers, doctors, and when we are forced to get into the war psychosis, we become murderers to one another. People on the other side, they want to kill us, and we on this side want to kill them. And then human beings become worse than subhumans. They lose all levels of sanity, all types of sanity. But nothing is being done. Wars have been fought, wars are being fought, wars will continue to be fought. This is the characteristic of this worldly life. Lord Buddha, he wanted human beings to extinguish the flame of their desires. He taught people to be moderate, to be less desirous, to have less passions, and to allow themselves to be taken by death. And he was also not in favor of having both repeatedly, devote and devote and devote. That is why he gave the mantra, he gave this clue to salvation, that we get born and again born because our desires, our passions to live, our ambitions, these always remain, you can say, glued to us. And it is because of that, they say, psychologists say, or the people who believe in life after death, they say that rebirth is because of that. But once a person feels that, well, no, I don't have to come back. I have seen, I have done, what more I can see, what more I can do. It's better that this cycle of birth and rebirth, birth, death, rebirth, there's no use this cycle to be followed. And finally, I would like to say that I'm very sad, as millions of people are sad who might have heard about his untimely death. I pay my tributes and I send my heartfelt condolences to the bereaved family. His wife is also gone with him. So maybe a consolation that his companion, earthly companion, is with him in the other world. Or the wife, if she had been killed in the accident in isolation of her husband, it would have been a spiritual tragedy. So it is also an advantage to the wife, Madhulika Rawat, that she died with her husband. So both of them continue their companionship beyond this earthly life. But the family members, the friends, the countrymen, the friends overseas, his well wishers in other different countries, all of them naturally must have felt a jolt inside, must have felt grief inside. So, to all these people, I sympathize, and I would like them to sympathize with me also, because I am also hurt, I am also grieved, and feel nothing is all right now. People come around, people get back to their normal function, but the question haunts, what is the meaning of this uncertain life? What is the meaning of this short life? And at the same time, so much challenge, so much handicapped, so much helpless. And then my reading, your reading, our reading tells us that we don't have to take these dates to our heart. We have to look forward. We have to think of the future. What future? But then, for the sake of saying at least, well, I am not going to kill myself. I'm not going to commit suicide. I'm not going to allow myself to be lying in the sorrowful, grievous state. I would come back to action. I will get back to my work. I will start doing the activities which have been my normal activities. And you don't have any alternative to that. If you have to live, you have to work, you have to eat, you have to move, you have to socialize. And for that, you have to come back into work action. And once you come back into that, it's all over. Means your special gloomy state of mind gradually gives way to the active state of mind, and you start having interests also. Once again, suppose you have the same jolt, the same shock. So it goes on. Life is a texture, life is a text, and the text has both joys and woes. Maybe more woes, little joys, or in some cases more joys, little woes. But whatever may be the proportion of joys and woes, life has to be lived in this uncertain way. One has to accept the dictates of death, the agents of death. Never know. when your warrant is served on you. This much. God, please help us to overcome the grief. If you are anywhere, nature, please help us to feel lighter after so much of heaviness felt by our hearts because of deaths of the known or unknown people. I particularly get moved when I see a dead person being carried, or a person dying, a person in suffering. I don't even know who that person is, but because of my weakness, because of my weak heartedness, because of my nature, I feel very sad whenever death occurs. But I also come back into action. I start living normally. And everybody does that. Everybody does that. All right then. God bless us. Nature bless us. Bye bye.